Well, Dina, when you sign up for a race, and it doesn't even matter the distance, but I guess for sheer awe factor, what if we sign up for like a 100-mile race or a 200 or even a 300, which now exists, by the way, listeners, a 300 ultra endurance run? It's kind of scary, isn't it? You're thinking, oh, maybe you've never done it before, or maybe you have, but you kind of don't know what to expect, even if you're a seasoned pro. Like, has that resonated with you before?
Yeah, there's like the emotional, physical, mental side that comes in right away. I think a lot of us think of the physical, right? All that, like, ooh, I got to do all this training now. And
Yeah,
that can be overwhelming. And we might forget some of the other inputs that go into what we call
exactly.
training.
Yeah. And it's funny because like when you sign up for an event, call it a race, an event, like whatever you want to call it, we don't usually think about the outcome, do we? I mean, like very quickly, we're like, oh, it's going to be so great to cross that finish line. And then poof, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
Because the outcome of finishing is so far in the future that you have to prepare for this, right? There are
Yes.
certain things that you have to do from, like you said, a physical, an emotional, a nutritional, psychological basis. And listeners, we're not talking about how to prep for your next race or event. We're actually talking today on this episode about the mindset that is needed to lose weight. So, Dina and I are going to sit down. We're going to have this nice little discussion basically on what it takes to prepare to lose weight. And here's the reason why we're talking about this. Weight loss can be very mechanical, right? So, if you're going to try to lose weight or change body composition, you know that obviously you're going to have to exercise. You're going to have to change your exercise. You're going to have to change your nutrition, maybe create a caloric deficit or increase carbs, protein, fat, decrease these things. Like, that, like, that's pretty standard. What I feel like we don't really have a good grasp on is the mindset, is the process that you're going to go through during your journey. And it can be related to training or, preparing for an event or a race, right? We really want to create that mindset focus to create a good process. And hopefully we get to the outcome that we want. Now, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, right? But so Dina, we're going to frame this as we're not talking about how to lose weight. We're talking about how to prepare to lose weight. Now, what are some of the things that you hear from your clients that's, it's hard. We know weight loss is hard. We know changing body composition is difficult. We're not going to disregard that at all. But have your clients ever come up to you and said, "Hey, I want to get ready to lose weight"? Or do they just say, "Dina, I want to lose weight now. Help me"?
Oh my gosh, I think it's rare, Bob,
Very rare.
for the readiness prep, like prepare stage.
Yes. It
I mean, I'm
it
trying to
is.
think of individuals who have, and it's just not a common, and maybe that's
No.
partly our society. Like we just want the quick fix. I just snapped my fingers in case you heard that noise. Yeah, just like let's do this. I'm in it, and we
Yeah.
don't even think about the framework
Yeah.
mentally or those other frameworks that we might talk about
Yes.
here is part of that preparation stage.
Yeah. So
What
listeners, we're
about
going to give you
you?
some good tips on how to prepare to lose weight or change, let's just say how to prepare to change your body, right? Because obviously there are some mechanics involved, but we're not talking about those today. We're talking about the mindset that is necessary. So I kind of feel, Dina, a lot of times, like if someone wants to change their body composition or their weight, it's usually because something is wrong, right? I mean, I've been there, done that, and I've been like, okay, something is wrong. I want to reduce my body fat because something happened to create the problem. So we want to fix the problem, right?
Yeah, are you getting at also, Bob, kind of this why, like understanding what is going on or why
Yes.
why you're even thinking about this?
Why you're even thinking about it. Like, so because you can get in the weeds with this one, but let's talk about the why first, listeners. Okay. So the why is very powerful because the why will dictate not your success. And I truly do not believe your why will dictate your success. I believe your why will dictate how successful the process is.
Hmm.
So many listeners probably know, if you know Dina and I, we don't really focus on the outcome; we focus on the process. So, yeah, let's rewind it back to the why. Like my why when trying to reduce body composition is because I literally do not like the way things are on my body. I either don't like the way it looks, the way it feels, like whatever it is, right? It's and call it, a self-confidence thing, call it a self-esteem thing. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's still very important because each of us have a different why, right? So I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't matter if it's from a health perspective, performance perspective, aesthetic perspective. I think the why can be very powerful because that's going to help you create your mindsets, or I guess jumpstart your mindset. Because a lot of times, and Dina, I'm going to pass it off to you here. A lot of times I don't think a lot of our clients know the why, right? Well, I want to lose weight. I want to change body fat. But why? You need to get that long pause. I think a lot of us need to kind of step back first and answer that first question, why? Do you agree?
My mind is chunking away over here, Bob.
Yeah,
Can you hear it?
I can actually.
Yeah, because I think, yeah, exactly. It needs oiled up.
Yeah.
I think this is really important because oftentimes the why ties to expectations of what you think will happen when and if that outcome is achieved. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, for
Yeah.
example, for some people, it might be something like, I want to lose weight so that I can have my body back, kind of
Hmm.
language. I was like, well, you have your body right now. It's really some other kind of thing here that's, and it's slightly off topic, but it's related, is like, well, part of this is accepting the body you have, seeing what opportunities there are, but what it is you are hoping to or expecting to feel or think about your own physical external self. So that might lead to other strategies that get involved in this process.
Hmm.
But it is opportunity for the self-discovery piece and really thinking about not only what you're saying, like what is going on, what are your whys, but also then what happens when you achieve this outcome. Is everything fixed, or is there more to the mentality, or, the psychology that needs to be continued as far as addressing?
Well, that's an easy question. If you're asking it, I'm going to answer yes, there will always be more. We know that, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people know that. They think, oh, if I do hit my outcome goal, I'm done. And in fact, you're not done because there's
Right.
always going to be another why. Always. I don't care if it's aesthetic or emotion. I don't, there will always be another why. But let me talk about something, because what you said something, and it just I just reflect on, I'm like, oh my gosh, because I hear that quite a bit. As we mature, you and I are very mature. We're not extremely mature, but we're definitely up there on the mature scale, right?
Yes.
And listeners, you know what I'm talking about when I say mature. I feel like in my practice, I still have athletes come to me saying, hey, I just, like, to your reference, I want my body back. I want to look like I did in college. I want to look like in my 20s or whatever it was. I'm like, listen, as we mature, things do change. And in fact, they change, a lot of things change for the positive. Unfortunately, I think we just focus on the negative a little bit more than the positive, but that's another whole topic. Dee, why do people, if you ever really thought about this, why do we buy new cars or new bikes or new running shoes or new anything really? Just you fill in the blank that we spend our money on. And it's because we want something different, right? And I feel like sometimes that's what we're going after with our bodies. But, I kind of look at this where, and that's not right or wrong. I'm not judging by any means, but I kind of look at it as, and this could be wordsmithing and just using different words, but in my mind, this is very important. I look at it as accepting versus embracing. So a lot of times people don't want to accept their new bodies, right? Because there are a lot of negatives. Like, I don't like this weight gain. I don't like this body fat. I don't like losing muscle mass, whatever. But maybe, just maybe, and because we're talking about mindset here, maybe it requires a mindset shift and maybe a word shift where we instead of saying accept, maybe we embrace. And to me, and I could be different here, but to me, embracing means, what can I do where I'm at right now to make myself better? And this is with weight loss, this is with body fat loss, this is with whatever. It's how can I embrace my body now to get better instead of just accepting and saying, oh, I'm not going to do anything about it. Now, you can go both ways on this, right? But I feel like embracing is a key word because now we can still use it and employ a different mindset to be more successful in our process. So, as an example, if, because we're talking about weight loss, this whole mindset thing, if I'm embracing where I'm at, then I can formulate a plan, a process goal plan to include weightlifting, to include cardio, to include nutritional shifts. Those are the mechanics of it. We're not talking about that. But the mindset shift, I think, begins with whatever words, whatever is important for your brain to engage in the process planning of weight loss or body fat loss. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah, like that emotional state that we have going in and how we're viewing the process is part of what I'm hearing anyway is and then also aligning the body that we are in and bringing that forward. Like I'm not orating super well here, but I think it is marrying up the like you said that accept versus embrace. There's some nuance there that really has a different tone and brings I think a different orientation to that path forward.
Yeah, and I think just because our bodies change and we know they do, be it for positive or negative, depending on your definition, I don't think we give into that. I don't think we say, oh, okay, my body's changing. I'm just going to accept it now. Like, no, like embrace the changes and do something about what you want to have changed, right? Or any changes you want to make. Like, and I just see way too many people say, oh, you know what? I'm gaining some weight around my midsection. It is what it is, right? I'll just do whatever. I'm like, well, don't do whatever. Like, let's shift into a different mindset so we can plan. We can come up with a plan so you can try to alleviate some of those negative thoughts or negative things that you have going on. But I don't know. It's just, we're kind of getting a little bit in the woods with it. But to kind of bring it back, it begins with mindset. It begins with positivity. It begins with maybe certain words that are important to you. Like for me, like I said, and it doesn't resonate with anyone, everyone's different, but I cannot use the word accept. I have to use the word embrace because for me, embrace means I'm moving forward continually. Whereas accepting in my mind, and this is just the way my brain works, accepting is almost like a stop sign in my brain, right? But it's just me. I'm not saying that's everyone. I'm saying like that's the way my brain functions. And I want to always continually move in my process. And that's why personally I use the word embrace for anything in my life. Like, oh yeah, I'm embracing this. Like, we're on tough times, stressful situations. I'll embrace this. What can I do to regain the process of moving forward again?
I'm wondering, Bob, how the success versus failure comes into this.
Mm,
Because kind of like when you're mentioning when we first started thinking about a race or an event, and what is success versus failure? Is it crossing the finish line or is it
mm,
much more in that process? So, if we take it to this context, how do we view the embracing
yeah.
process and see our path forward as success? Or how, because this is, I think, where some people can get into trouble is like, well, I didn't meet X goal, so I failed at the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty common in weight loss. And let me just bundle weight loss and body fat loss as one thing, right? That is so common, and it has been ever since we've gotten into this trade, certainly. But it is, and it's a good reminder that focusing on that outcome goal will usually not be the best strategy because a lot of times, yeah. And I'll give an example here. It's a prime example of a client athlete I'm working with now, but if you don't see the number on the scale change, you're a failure, right? That's unfortunately how a lot of us think. And that I believe is the whole embracing thing, right? Because I believe embracing is synonymous with a positive journey, a positive process. But here's the other thing. If you don't have checks and balances throughout your process, the only thing you will focus on is that outcome goal, right? So bring it back to the whole weight loss thing. So here's my story working with an athlete who wants to lose weight and for months has not seen the needle move too much on the scale and too much, a couple pounds here and there. And obviously there's so many different things and we're not talking about the mechanics, but from a mindset perspective, I've reminded this athlete repeatedly. We've talked about sleep performance. We've talked about metrics because they measure this stuff with various biomarker tech these days. But also, I think we have to come back into what I asked this individual also was, well, how do your clothes fit? How does your spouse react to any changes. Like, because a lot of times if I say, hey, Dina, do you notice any changes? You'd be like, oh, let me step on the scale and I'll tell you. No, 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 no. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm getting at, do you feel better cognitively? Like, are you getting better sleep? What about your performance? So with this athlete I'm working with, it just so happens uses a power meter, right? So I can quantify performance. So I'm looking because I coach him also, and I can look at that and say, oh, well, this is interesting because power is increasing, your FTP is increasing, your body weight is not changing that much. And then you get into the whole, oh well, I've changed some clothes. My belt size is a little bit smaller now. I'm like, oh, that's the process. That's embracing and making the changes throughout the process instead of just focusing on that outcome. So I totally went off on a tangent there. I don't even know how to loop that back in, but I mean, I'm hoping some of our listeners are like, oh, you know what? That's really making sense here, right? It's the mindset of developing your process, but having the checks and balances so you can make sure you are on the right path, because sometimes we have to change paths, right? We know that.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing too is this gauging of change in the process is not just one single metric. So, if we are in the context of weight loss, it's setting yourself up to have those other checks and balances, how you feel, how you perform. There could be a list of 20 things that
Yeah.
accompany the process. And then knowing, I think too, Rob, is like there isn't really that endpoint that you think there is where you reach whatever the goal, and it may change and evolve based on how you're feeling and things. But like we don't just stop when we get to an endpoint, more or
Yeah.
less, right? You got to keep this stuff going.
Well, if it's from a weight perspective, like what if, let's just use a, example. If I'm 200 pounds, I want to get to 180. What happens when I get to 180? I ask a lot of my athletes that, like, what happens in
Yeah.
your mind once you get to 180? Oh, I celebrate because I hit my goal. Well, what happens if you're 179? What happens if you're 181? What happens if you're 190? But all these other metrics are fantastic, like sleep and recovery and all that stuff. Huh. Never really thought about that. That's the mindset. That's what we're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
preparing for these things, right? And
Right.
back to the whole, as we started this episode with, if you're preparing for an event that maybe scares you a little bit or you've never done before, it is all about the process and embracing that process. Because, and you and I have both been through this before from a physical nature, but things happen. We're like, oh, you know what? I've got this little pain or this little niggle. I'm going to embrace that, do something different to keep me on my path, or even maybe go off on a different path, but I'm still moving forward. And that's the mindset I believe it takes. Like, when you sign up for an event that's a little bit scary, you're like, oh, I need a plan, right? So what do? You're like, okay, I need to talk to some people. I need to get things in order. I need to make sure that I can create positive sleep hygiene, a good sleep schedule for myself. I need to make sure maybe I'm not traveling that much if I can do that. Like, you need to get that mindset, which is basically just a little planning and preparation, but from a psychological standpoint.
Would you want to add anything here too, Bob, about this timeline aspect, meaning
Oh, yes.
your mindset around your desired expectations and outcomes and the time frame, like that? How long did it take to get your body where it is now and your
Yes.
expectations for changing that? What is
Yeah.
realistic versus kind of silly?
Totally. And I think I am going to play the age card on this, because I do believe as we mature, things are definitely a little bit slower to process, right? And I think we need to allow ourselves more time to go through that process. So I think that's my first thing, and I'm just speaking from experience and taking athletes through it. But in there's not like a certain age, like, oh, under this age and over this age. But I'm like, we can all relate to that. But I do kind of want to just bring that up, like, just reflect on your weight gain, right? Because we're talking about the mindset of weight loss here. How long did it take for you to gain that weight? But more importantly, what was your mindset? Did you sabotage yourself? Was it a very stressful time in life? Like, what was going on? Because your mindset not only contributed to that time frame of how long it took you to gain that weight, but your mindset will also contribute to the path and the process of how long it takes to lose that weight. But and there's no algorithms for this, Dina, but we know, listen, if it took you 6 months to put on the weight, I'm sorry, you're not going to lose the weight in 3 months. Like it's just not going to happen unless you're doing something extremely unsafe, right?
Right.
But I think we need to be realistic in that, and that's the mindset. That's the okay. I realize it took me this long to create where my body is at right now. Thus, I am going to make sure that not only am I patient, which most of us are not, but I'm going to make sure that I am in the right state of mind to be able to accept it may take longer to lose what I gained. And I mean, I don't know about you, Dina, but I think it's probably 100% of the athletes I worked with. It always takes longer to lose what you've gained.
Yeah.
Almost always.
And this may just go with a few things you've mentioned already or that we've hinted at too. Along with the timeline is, yeah, your strategies, what you think in your mind for what needs to happen. We have to allow for some flexibility and
Mhm.
openness. I think that is a mindset thing that kind of goes with the mechanics of it all, but it's got to
Yeah.
be, you have to have that mindset as well. And if you've been through it before 10 years ago, it may not work the same. So, like your timeline and the way in which you decide to go forward has to be open and flexible, maybe some evolving along the way, or it could be a total brand new strategy that you don't even know about yet.
No, that's a good point. I just want to reflect on that where, maybe you tried to lose weight 10 years ago and now you're trying to lose weight again. You're not going to most likely you're not going to go through the same process and you're certainly not going to employ the same strategies for many different reasons because we're all progressing through our lives at different rates and, things are happening. So, I guess with that, the mindset that you had 10 years ago is most likely not going to be the same one that you use now. Now, certain parts of it may be certain skills, but it's not going to be the same exact mindset. And I think that's where we get caught up, right? And I can speak for myself just with body fat changes. I know like 10 years ago, certain strategies I employed to alter my body composition do not work 10 years afterwards now. It's just like I have to completely revamp these. Even though my mindset is fairly similar, I actually give myself a little bit more wiggle room. Like I'm more patient now. And honestly, it's literally because of the biology of aging. And I think we need to, again, not accept it. Like a lot of people are like, oh, getting old really fill in your favorite adjective. It doesn't really. I think if we embrace this aging continuum, because I don't know about you. I mean, it's not always great, but sometimes you wake up, you're like, wow, what can I do today? Like, what can I do to affect this? And it's frustrating. Listen, listeners, I get it. Like, it's frustrating sometimes when you're like, listen, I just want to see myself in a different light. We totally get that. But embrace where you're at now. Use different mental strategies and different mindset strategies to be able to create a different path now. And I think that's what we're doing. We're not just, trading in our body and getting a new one like we can do with a new car. It just doesn't work like that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe bits and pieces we can, but not the whole thing.
Yes. I was trying to paraphrase something a colleague had said to you, and if it doesn't work out so beautifully well here, pardon me, and I'll just do my best. But it was something along the lines like for us, how we say, Bob, that we're like master's age. So whatever,
Mhm.
that's 35 and older, whatever,
Yeah.
fill in the blank. But I can embrace my body, even if it's changing, and still be living in a body that is strong and healthy and able to do all these amazing things going forward. It's like we can have both of these things together. It doesn't need to be totally constrained by, like, in this context of a weight loss thing, that it doesn't have to be framed solely by the body weight, even though that's what we're talking about here, that all of these things can come together and we can still, like, quote unquote, thrive throughout our remaining years. And so I don't know if that kind of breaks some of the thing that you were saying earlier with like accepting, but I'm trying to get at like we can embrace and still make these changes instead of just giving up, like you were
Yeah, for
alluding to
sure.
earlier.
For sure. Well, since we're throwing out quotes, here's one for you too. And this is so profound in my mind. And listeners, you're gonna have to listen to this one a couple times because it may hit you real hard at first, like it did with me, or you may have to hear it repeatedly and then you'll get it. But I cannot remember where I heard this quote or read this quote, but this, in my mind, it kind of sums up everything we're kind of talking about here. So here's the quote. Do you run to get fit? Or do you get fit to run? So let me say that one more time. Do you run to get fit? Like, are you running to improve your fitness? Or are you trying to get fit so you can run? And I'll just add another word, properly. There's a lot to it here because
Yeah.
it's about, and some of that is mechanics and we're talking more about mindset, but it's just, I don't know, it's kind of profound because a lot of us, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go for a run. And why are you running? Well, I'm running to get fit. I'm running to lose weight. I'm running for stress management. Well, now I'm injured because maybe you're not running properly or maybe whatever, right? But I don't know, Dina, that just resonated with me because if we actually get fit to be able to run well, that's what we're talking about here, right? And maybe it's the mindset that starts this whole process. And maybe I should just take out the word maybe. It is the mindset that
Yeah.
begins this whole process and really
Yeah.
dictates this process. And, I guess listeners, that's kind of what we're focusing on is the process more so instead of the outcome.
I don't think I have too much to add to that, Bob. I think we've covered, at least in my view, in my mindset, that we've
Yeah.
covered a lot of these super important elements of mindset here as we think about the weight loss kind of goal.
Yeah. So, when listeners, if you ever hire Dean and I as your sport dietitian, we will talk to you about this. And it may seem a little bit weird, but now at least you have a little bit more context. You'd be like, why are they asking me about mindset? Because it is so important in many things we do in life. We're just obviously choosing the whole weight loss and body composition changes. But listeners, hopefully you stayed with us. We didn't get in the weeds too much. It's such an important topic, and I'm sure you can just tell by our voices. Just we're so passionate about this because literally changing the body is not just about the X's and O's, right? It's really about, like, if you think about a coach, in let's just call a team sport athlete, or a team sport coach, where they do a lot of X's and O's and plays and this and that. It's not just about the plays; it's about the mindset that goes into making the plays and the process of producing the plays to be successful. So hopefully you've stayed with us and this has resonated a little bit, but you know what? It may not. So you may have to replay this a couple times. And I can almost guarantee some of you will have questions about this. So we would love to hear from you, as we always do. You can obviously find us on Instagram, but we love emails. We'd love for you to just kind of give us a little bit of feedback on what's going on with you and maybe your questions. So just email us, hello@insidesportsnutrition.com, and let us know what's going on. I mean, we can email you back privately, or maybe we'll turn this into a Ask Us Anything episode with your question. So we just appreciate it. We appreciate you guys all being with us here, and we will catch you on our next episode.